Welcome to another episode of the Can't Deposit Excuses podcast. I'm your host, Derek Wiley, and I'm excited to have with me today Katie, who has been here now 2 times because unfortunately, we had some technical glitches and some technical issues. Memory cards, they're not great. So Katie Lewis, thank you for coming back and doing this again. You were still my first female guest ever on the podcast, even though we're doing this for a second time because of some technical glitches. So thanks for being here a second time.
Hey, that means I'm first and second.
Yes. So, we wanted to make sure that if we put you in the record books, we got you, in all the record books. But for those that don't know Katie, she is the owner of a publication here in the Roanoke Valley that's going to be launching very soon, which is Roanoke Real Producers. And she is a lot of other things besides that as well. She is into wine. She was in the adult beverage industry. She is into horses. So she is into the equines. So she has a lot of things that are pretty cool to talk about besides just, what she does as a day job or a day gig. So, with that being said, Katie, once again, thanks for coming back. Thanks for being here. Just wanted to ask you, tell me a little bit about that background. We were just talking about it. I know the adult beverage piece, you did that for 16 years or some huge amount of time. I don't know what it was. It was a long time that you were in that industry before you made the switch over. So how did you get into the adult beverage industry, first of all?
So June will actually be the beginning of my 16th year in the adult beverage industry. Prior to stepping away for a few months, I had spent 15 years in the adult beverage industry. And one of the things that really attracted me to it is the variety of different jobs that you can have and the fact that you never stop learning. I've traveled to so many countries to learn how something's grown, produced, bottled, barreled, marketed. Everything about the adult beverage industry is something that's constantly changing. And when I say adult bev, I mean everything: wine, beer, spirits, sake. You have the ability to continue to educate yourself, get different certifications. I'm a level 2 with Wine and Spirits Educational Trust. It's just an industry that continues to change and develop. And it's something that really speaks to my necessity to continue to learn and never have the same day twice. And, I began working in, bars and clubs and helping open them, moved into mixology, fine dining, became an importer of fine wine and olive oil, became a district manager for the second largest distributor of wine, beer, and spirits in the nation. And then most recently became a corporate buyer for a large grocery chain covering the entire mid-Atlantic region, up to 123 stores in 6 states. And all of that led me to a path that allowed me to meet my husband, who was just a few cubicles down, the love of my life. And then last year, we actually bought our very own vineyard. So our vineyard and equestrian facility is called Serenity Wine and Equine.
Yeah. So that's the cool thing. Like, how many people own or have an opportunity to have a vineyard, especially when you have that background in the adult beverage industry. So it's really, really neat. The first time we recorded this, which you guys won't know, I called it a winery, which shows you that I'm, obviously not up to speed on all the different technical terminology. I'm just like, so you make wine? She's like, no, we grow the grapes. But she's like, the winery is, I guess, something that at some point that's going to also be part of your plan.
Yep. So owning a vineyard means we grow the grapes. I actually got a text message from my husband who's on vacation this week, and we have our first bud break. And so he sent me a couple pictures that said it's go time. But yes, we make the grapes, and, short term, we're turning it into an event facility. It's something that we kind of see as being owned by everyone. We want everyone to feel like they own a vineyard as well, and to come and take part in what we do, whether it's just coming out and enjoying the space and the serenity that it is, or coming out and learning what work goes into it and become a part of the viticulture community. Viticulture is, wine, the wine industry as a whole within agriculture. But yes, long term, we definitely want to be able to, invest and continue to do so in the business until we're able to make our own wine on larger scales.
Absolutely. I mean, if you guys don't know, this is an educational podcast. So I want you guys to come away knowing what the difference is between a vineyard and a winery, and I also want you to know the word viticulture. So if you didn't know that before, that's what we're here for. So I mean, you may not know what the purpose of this podcast is, but it's to help expand your vocabulary. So thank you, Katie, for sharing that word. I have heard it before, but I'm not an expert on anything wine related. I think the last time we talked, I told you, I said I'm a bourbon guy, and you were like, my husband is that's his thing. He loves that piece, and I'm like the wine stuff I know very little about. I said bourbon, I could sit here and talk to you all day about the different distillers and Santori and Brown-Forman and Woodford, and I mean I would get into weeded bourbon versus this. I was like, when we start talking about wine, it's like a whole new level that I don't understand. Like I don't have my level 3 sommelier wine stuff. I'd be like, is this good wine? It's in a box. Should I drink this? Is this okay? So, yeah, I need to come visit so you can teach me all about the different wines and the pairings. Like you had a dinner afterwards and you were like, was it champagne? And you were like, this pairs well with fried chicken. And I'm like, who would have ever think to pair? I wouldn't even think of that.
Yeah, we had quite a few different kinds of champagnes, cavas, and proseccos, which are just different sparkling wines from different regions around the world. The name really is determined by where it's made and how it's made and what grapes are made in it. But yeah, we paired some really great sparkling wines with fried chicken. And tonight we're going to pair some really great reds with spare ribs. And we're going to have something sweet to go with a birthday cake.
It sounds great. I mean, it may be blasphemous to those that think the only thing that pairs with fried chicken is sweet tea. But if that's what you thought, then you'd be wrong, because clearly there's some other things you can pair. Well, not to jump off that topic, but to come back around, let's just talk a little bit about, what you're doing now. So like the Real Producers, this is a national publication, but the cool thing about it is this publication that you're a part of and the owner of locally, they have their own local publications. So even though it's a national brand and they have these all over the country, like they're very much targeted to like your locale. So you have a publication that may have, national recognition in terms of name, but you're able to create a magazine that is literally for our local community and especially the real estate community. So I wanted to take some time and just talk a little bit about how you got involved with them and like what exactly is Real Producers for those that may not have heard of it.
Yep, absolutely. So like I said before, 15 years in the adult beverage industry, my husband and I made a conscious decision that it was my time to step away from my role in the corporate world and to go find what was next. And the very first thing that fell in my lap was Real Producers. After 15 years of a wonderful career, there was no possible way in my mind that that was the right step. And so I wasted another 2 months of my life because I had to be analytical and take a look at everything. And that's when I realized that indeed Real Producers was right for me. While I might have been at that point a little bit newer in the real estate industry, I wasn't new to community. And it really spoke to my entrepreneurial spirit as a woman and as a business owner. But it also spoke to me because it is truthfully the ability to think globally and act locally. Because like you said, this is a national platform. This is something that's played out in over 100 markets across the nation. Markets larger than Roanoke, markets smaller than Roanoke, markets very similar to Roanoke. And it's something that is founded on the N2 beliefs that what we're doing is to honor God, strengthen family, and to create financial wealth for everyone involved. And like I said, being a national platform or something that started in 2015 in over 100 marketplaces, we're obviously doing really well in less than 6 years. And that's primarily because real estate agents and our partners love what we do. Every single day as a real estate agent, you are bombarded with ways to market yourself, spend money, pay for this, pay for an ad here. And so what I love about what I do is when I call the real estate agent, I can tell them and be truthful in my words, I'm not here to sell you anything. I want to celebrate you, inspire you, and uplift you. And when I actually sit down with businesses, I'm not sitting down with anybody that's listed in Google. I'm only sitting down with businesses that are referred to me by a top agent. And so it's something that allows me to ensure I'm working with the very best people up front. And once you're in front of a partner, I know that I'm sitting in front of someone that's interested in growing their business, understands that relationships are how real estate happens. Real estate is obviously a very transactional situation, but our partners know that a few new relationships with top agents is the way to grow their business, and that they have the ability to, come off the bench, if you will, and not be the second or third call that a real estate agent might make when one of their clients needs something like insurance or a home inspection or a mortgage. They know that they can come to you because you're the one that put the time in, and you're the one building that relationship and adding value to what they offer to their customers. We specifically here in the Roanoke area highlight and celebrate the top 300 producers of residential real estate by volume.
Yeah, I think that's the piece that a lot of people don't realize. You touched on it several times there. There are a lot of businesses that are transactional in nature, but at the end of the day, people do business with people, and relationships are paramount. And a lot of times people don't understand, well, what does that mean? Because it sounds like just a bunch of talk, and it doesn't really sound like it's pertinent. You're like, well, what do you mean people buy from people? Well, of course, there's a person behind every transaction. But the relationship piece is built when people are trying to bring value to others and they're trying to uplift them. That's how you build a relationship. If your idea of building a relationship is asking for this, asking for that, it's constantly take, and never give, then, you're not going to have much. So it's nice to have a platform, like you said, where you can go to these top producers and say to them, hey, listen, I'm different from the rest because I'm not here to try to get you to spend money. I'm here to try to bring value to you. And then I think it sounds like with the partners that you have, the non-real estate producers, the value to them is the relationship that they have with you and the relationship that you have with these top 300 producers, because it kind of creates a symbiotic relationship where everyone kind of, grows and gains as a result of being part of that community. And that's kind of what draws me to real producers, because full disclosure, not only am I interviewing Katie because she's a great person and has a great business model, but also because I am one of those people that is going to be working with these top 300 producers as well in my business. So I can speak firsthand to, how good of a job you do and trying to, bridge those gaps between maybe the people that are the top 300 producers and then those that are also maybe advertisers in the magazine, those that are trying to strengthen those relationships and bonds. You work behind the scenes, and not a lot of people don't do that. They don't work behind the scenes to try to build those relationships and bonds. And I think that's kind of, I don't know if it's what sets real producers apart across the country, but it's certainly, I think, in the Roanoke market, what will set you apart and your publication apart from others is that, you are the person that is there to help make all those relationships work. There's a great book, if you haven't read it, Malcolm Gladwell has a book where he talks about, I'm trying to think which one it is. I've read so many of his book. Outliers is one, but I think the one I want to talk about, I won't remember the title. Katie, if you've read it, you may know the title of the title of this book, but he talks about there are these people and they're connectors. And they basically, and everybody knows them in their life. You have certain people that fit different things, but this person that knows like everybody, and they have connections with like 100 people. Well, you're that person in this business. And so having people like that in your corner, if you're not maybe the most outgoing, or maybe you don't have as deep of connections, that person can help bridge that for you and bridge that gap. And I think that's what you do so well. Anything by Malcolm Gladwell is good, by the way. So.
And I appreciate you saying that. As a real estate agent, you're constantly being bombarded not only with things to spend money on, but people that want to take. They don't come to you with the idea of giver's gain. So as a real estate agent, it's important that whether you have been in your career for quite a while and you know the marketplace, or if you are beginning your career, it's best to always make sure that the people that you're referring your clientele to are people that you know, you trust, and that are going to add value to what you are offering to your customer. Because even if it is you providing insurance to that customer for their homeowner's insurance, it's still that real estate agent that says, hey, I think you should call Derek Wiley at the Derek Wiley Agency. And likewise, when you are someone that can find value and grow business by having relationships with other top business partners and other real estate agents, every single one of our partners has plans designed on how to meet real estate agents. They can do that successfully. What they don't have the ability to do is target the top producing agents. Going and getting in front of 20 people that aren't even going to close a transaction this year has very little value to you and your business. It might have great value to you as a person. You might find friends and really grow who you are within a marketplace. But as far as actually bringing business to you, those 20 people that won't have transactions won't be able to do that. So what we do at Real Producers is really making sure that you have the ability to come in and spearfish versus cast a wide net. You're not trying to get in front of every single person that may or may not buy or sell a home. It's really about targeting the people that are out there doing a bulk of the business and doing so in a way that creates a relationship between you and them that is so much deeper than, hey, here's a bunch of magnets with my face on it. Can you hand it out to any of your customers? It's not about being the bright, shiny object. It's about being the person that you know is going to pick up the phone at 9 o'clock at night when somebody needs an insurance quote. It's about being there on a Saturday when you're on the golf course and somebody needs to schedule a home inspection for the following week. And so it's something that lends itself the ability to have value to businesses that are small, businesses that are large, businesses that have been around for years and are getting ready to pass this business on to other family members, or even businesses that, are brand new. They don't know anything about the area. Maybe you've just moved into the area and you've done this in a great way before. I spoke to someone in Lincoln, Nebraska yesterday, and her word that she used when she talked about working with Lincoln, Nebraska Real Producers, my hopeful partner asked her, what's the likelihood that you'll continue to work with Real Producers? She's been in the publication since day one, and her word was strong. And that was something that filled me with the understanding that what I'm doing here is exactly what's being done in over 100 other markets. Something that's going to bring value to people right here in the Roanoke Valley. It's going to strengthen our families, strengthen the community that we have, and the financial capabilities that we have, and the ability to take care of customers here so that we're not losing them to the Zillows and the internet mortgage and the internet insurance companies that don't have people right here, that are spending money right here, that are growing families and homes and schools and health networks right here. What we do at Real Producers has to be hyper-local because we want to make a difference where we live, because we love where we live.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think, you nailed it when it comes to the commoditization of everything. And that's, unfortunately, it happens in my industry. It happens in lots of industries. Real estate's no different. The Redfins of the world, the Zillows of the world, those things, while they can be useful as tools and they're very nice in terms of what they can provide, they also can become a direct competitor down the road. And if we're not focused in on, those relationships, we're all going to be left in a world in which you don't know anyone, you don't have connections, you don't have that person. That's another thing about real estate agents, just talking about real estate agents in general, because obviously you work with the top 300. They are the good ones. They tend to be the ones that are that connector piece, that spoke, comes into that hub, and they're the hub that all those spokes come to. So a lot of times you can reach out, and I've done this myself personally, reached out to a real estate friend of mine and said, hey, I need somebody for this. Who's your go-to person? Because they tend to have so many interactions with so many different people, whether it be contractors, whether it be insurance people. I mean, it can even be people when it comes to buying and selling cars. There's so many things that they have their hand in, and people that they come across and have dealt with, even people that have been past clients of theirs. So it could be something like you're looking for a primary care physician and you're new to the area. Your realtor may have because they're like, I just sold a doctor a house that turned out to be a great client 10 years ago. He ended up becoming my doctor. He's a great physician. You just never know those connections. And real estate agents in general, the really good ones, which are the ones that you tend to work with, because like you said, you have a sniper approach and you want your clients. You talked about the fishing analogy, but I use a sniper rifle versus a shotgun. It's like, the purpose of the publication is not to have a shotgun approach. It's like, let's pick and let's get you into contact with those that are doing the most business, because that's going to help everybody out. And it also makes it easy for you, because when you bring a partner on, you're able to say, hey, look, I've vetted these people. I know who they are. They are successful at what they do. If they weren't successful at what they do, we wouldn't be working with them. So it makes things work really well, which kind of brings us back full circle to, part of what the podcast is about as well, is the can't deposit excuses, as that is in the name. Part of that to me goes back to, trying to figure out whenever I have a guest, if there's some kind of enlightenment that I can take from them, something that they're seeing or that they've experienced firsthand, that can help others become successful or have success. And a lot of times that comes from the ability to kind of, I don't know, be observational about people in your industry. I think from talking with you, with lots of other people, the thing that I've noticed is we've watched some of the same speakers. We've read some of the same books. You kind of notice it's almost like this hidden like club of people that you don't really know that they speak your language until you start interacting with them. And you're like, oh, you know who that is. Last time we spoke, we talked about Jordan Peterson. His name came up as somebody, was it the 12 rules for life, I think? Yeah. So there's all kinds of things like that you come across. I wanted to ask you, when you're working with these top producers, relationships obviously has already come up, but what are you finding in your interactions on a daily basis that separates or differentiates that top 300 from maybe the other 1,100? I think in the Roanoke market, there's 1,400 real estate agents. So there's definitely a difference between, number 1,400 and number, 7, 8, 9, 10, et cetera. So, I mean, what have you seen? Is there anything that we could take out of that and say, I see this behavior or I see these things that they do that differentiates them. And maybe people that aren't in the real estate business can take those same things and they can apply them to themselves.
Well, one of the things I want to point out is that this group of people that are continuing to do big business and really shape what our community and our industry in this area looks like, it's not that much of a secret list anymore. You've had these people on your podcast. We have Joey Patterson. We have Fraser Hughes. There's all sorts of people. And there's other business owners as well that you've put in front of your mic that are really the ones that are out there that have the spirit of get up and get after it. And so when you ask me what that really looks like, what success really looks like, and how that can be, really taken back to what those top 300 have, they're people that get up every single day. And I'm stealing this from the principal broker at Nest Realty in Roanoke, Mr. Scott Miller. He said this to me once and it stuck with me ever since. As a real estate agent, you wake up unemployed every single day. It doesn't matter whether you have 4 closings by the end of the week or 10 more closings by the end of the month. That money hasn't hit the bank yet. You have to wake up every day and go find someone to hire you. And so the people that are successful are the ones that get up every single day and spend just as much time being unemployed as they would expect to be employed until somebody says, sure, let's go show some houses. Show me some houses I want to buy. Yeah, this house that I've been taking a look at for quite a while, or that I've owned for quite a while, what would my return on my investment be? Sometimes a home is the largest investment that a family or an individual might make. And so it's real estate agents that are successful that really help customers and clients be educated and informed, and the ones that stay in touch with their database. And that's something that you continue to see across partners as well. Other business owners that want to be in touch with top tier professionals. It's the ability to get up every single morning and live what Napoleon Hill taught in his book, Think and Grow Rich. My husband introduced this to me basically as the Bible when we first started seeing one another. And one of the things that you have to have the ability to do is the ability to get up every single morning, for me in particular, and look at myself in the mirror and say, my name is Katie Lewis, and I am going to produce wonderful grapes this year. And I'm going to do that by, finishing my pruning on time, having my herbicides, my pesticides, having all of the certifications that I need for that, to stay on top of my records and to, continue to grow the business that I have here. I'm also going to create a publication and to tell myself every morning what I'm going to do and the steps that it's going to take along the way to do it. If you aren't okay having that conversation with yourself every single day, having a vision board, having a mirror, whatever that looks like, to remind you of your why and your how. It's not just about going out and saying, hey, I'm a real estate agent. Come buy a house with me, or let me sell your house.
Exactly.
Hey, I'm going to get your house sold in 4 days. Okay, great. You're going to sell my house. How am I going to feel about that? What are you going to do for me as a customer? Come in, be educational and informative. And it's not this hurry up and let's do this because the market is frantic right now. It's really about making sure that you're putting forth the energy that you expect to have all the way through the transaction. And if you want it to be a hurried, rushed transaction, you might have a great deal of volume, but those customers are probably not going to come back to you because all they remember is the chaos of the transaction. They're the ones that take their time to educate and inform and build the relationship with their clients and to stay in touch with their clients after the fact. If you as an insurance agent aren't continuing to work the relationships that you have for your referral partners within the real estate community, then those people are going to go find another real estate agent that's going to take them out to lunch more often or put them on a podcast more often than you do, and you might lose them. But you still have to be the one that looks inside and see, why did that client go somewhere else? Why did that referral source go somewhere else? It's really about looking in the mirror and saying, what do I need to do? How do I do it? And how do I continue in the future with it?
Yeah. I mean, I think with what you just said, I mean, there was a lot to unpack there, but I mean, several of the pieces that you said, one is to have success, you've got to have the positive thinking, which I'll touch on that in a moment, but that's just, I think that's a piece that a lot of people are lacking. They don't understand how important that piece is. The second part was, yes, you have to have the tactical piece, but that's expected. That's like technical knowledge. Like just because you have technical knowledge doesn't mean that you have expertise in how to deal with people. I was reading the back cover of a book, and I don't know why I keep talking about books. I sound like a librarian here, all these books that I've read, but there was a book, and many people have read it, called The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. And on the back of the book, it talks about the entrepreneurial myth. And it's the myth that because you have technical proficiency in a topic that you can become a business owner or be an entrepreneur. I mean, real estate agents are, for all intents and purposes, their own mini businesses. But just
Private
because you,
contract.
yeah, exactly. But just because you have the technical expertise of knowing how to fill out a contract and how to do all these things, it doesn't mean that you have the personal skills maybe necessary to actually run a successful business and be an entrepreneur. So I think you touched on, like attitude's one thing, technical proficiency's another piece. But going back to the relationship piece, I mean, that's key. People don't buy from a business necessarily. They buy from a person. And if you don't make that person feel valued, no matter what the relationship is, whether it's a relationship with a referral partner, whether it's a relationship with a buyer, a seller, etc., if that relationship doesn't create some kind of an emotional response in that person, that relationship long term won't stand on its own. A relationship without emotion is a transaction. So I mean, that's what you've got. The positive thinking piece, I wanted to come back to that because I think that's the piece that's missing in a lot of people. And it sounds silly when you say, like, I'm Katie Lewis, I say that. The Stuart Smalley character on Saturday Night Live, for those of us that are old enough to remember when SNL was actually good, it used to be, believe it or not. When it was good, they had these characters, and you would look at that and you'd say, well, he'd say, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me. And it sounds silly, but there's real value in that. There's in human psychology, if you constantly think negatively, or if you constantly think that you aren't good enough, or if you think that the best that you can ever do, let's take the medals in the Olympics. If you think you're a bronze medalist, you're going to perform like a bronze medalist or worse. If you want to perform at the absolute peak, you have got to think like a gold medalist. And the thing people don't realize is you don't have to, you could never have won a gold medal and still psychologically trick yourself. That's the one good thing as humans we have. A book I've read talks about squirrels. So a squirrel that's born in the spring has never experienced winter, but somehow in the fall, they inherently know to go start putting nuts away for the winter. How do they know that? There's this other part of our brains that animals are clued into that we are, as humans, are shut off from. But we have the one thing that animals don't have, which is imagination. And that is the ability to actually take the idea of success, imagine it in your head, and then try to put that out into the world. And I think the last time we shot our podcast that fell apart, I brought up the topic of, because memory cards, because technical glitches.
Hashtag memory card.
Hashtag memory cards. Make sure your memory cards are up to date. Make sure your card readers don't.
Hey, memory cards. Hashtag, we can't download excuses.
We can't. But one of the things we talked about was, and I've heard this story multiple times, and I know there's other people that have done this, but I don't know why his story sticks out to me, but I never forget, it's probably 15 years ago, I read about Jim Carrey writing himself a check for $1 million, placing it in his wallet when he wasn't rich, wasn't famous, hadn't been on Mad TV, which a lot of people don't realize that's where, he really got his break in terms of becoming famous, was when he finally was on Mad TV. But He wrote that check and then years later was able to go and cash it. But the idea to even have the wherewithal, the cockiness that you have to have, the chutzpah to actually think, I'm going to cash $1 million check one day. Like, some people would look at that and say, you know what? That just seems like you're full of yourself if you think that. But that's the kind of the mental piece that you have to have. You have to believe in you before anyone else will believe in you. If you don't believe in you, if you can't get up in the mirror every day and say, I'm Katie Lewis, I'm Derek Wiley, I'm whoever, and I'm going to have success today, and this is what I plan to do. If you can't do that for yourself, then no one else is going to see that in you, and they will feed off of that energy. Your energy will be reflected back to you. And we've talked about, I think, people that you spend time around also kind of make a difference too.
Yeah, absolutely. The old adage that you are the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with, that's something that is more truthful to me in my life every single day. Where I was in the corporate world and the people that I was surrounded by was continually things that have drug me down. And we were talking actually just before we started, I was talking about how much weight I've lost within the past year. I wasn't taking care of myself. I was around people that didn't take care of themselves. I'm now continually around men and empowered women that continue to care about what their appearance is in regards to what their health is. And, at the end of the day, you're in complete control of what is able to influence you 99% of the time. I love rock music. There is nothing I love more than rock music. I miss live shows so much. Live music is one of my most favorite drugs, right along with world travel. But along my path, I've learned that there's music that when I put it into my body, I don't feel the way I want to feel. And so in the world of technology that we live in today, you have the ability, maybe you're not a reader. Maybe audiobooks are for you. Maybe you don't love audiobooks, but podcasts speak to you. You have the ability to put things into you that are going to continue to drive you forward and encourage you and influence you in ways that you don't understand until you actually give yourself a feeling of what yourself really is and how your body's reacting and how your mind's reacting to what you're putting in. If you want to be empowered and encouraged and to maintain focus and to change directions and to grow your life and your career and your financial status, go out and listen to these people. There's YouTube, there's Spotify, there's Apple Music, there's Pandora. There's tons of people that are out there giving to you. Go find what speaks to you and what you want your future to look like and go listen to it. Go read it. Go to an online talk. A lot of things being shifted online has created the ability to take part in different seminars and have access to different speakers that you might not have had the ability to travel across the country and see, or the ability to afford to go to their seminar. But now so many things are going on, Facebook Live, Zooms, and you have access to these things for little to no cost. Go out and find what you need to hear to empower you to make the changes that you need and to continue down the path you want to be on. And if you're going down that path, whether you're 20, 30, 50, 70, and you don't like where that path has taken you, or you don't like where you see it heading, your age doesn't matter. Change it. Yeah. You have the ability to change everything about your life by letting go of who you are for who you want to be.
Yeah, I think the thing that people don't realize is, and you nailed it, there's only one thing you can control. And that's the big mystery. People don't realize you cannot control the people. You can't control what they do. You can't control how they think, but you can control you. You can control how you react to situations. You can control what you consume, whether that be books or whether that be speakers, whatever the case may be. We as a society have never had more knowledge at our disposal than right now. And I used to go listen to speakers in the business world. I used to go to just conferences where like the company I was working for would have someone come and talk. And they would say things similar to what we're saying. But for most people, unless you're open to the idea, it's just in one ear and out the other. You hear it and you don't really take it in. You're not listening. And so, I think part of it is you have to make the concerted effort that, I'm going to try to take in and consume and be around certain types of people, read, be exposed to certain types of information. And If you do that enough, it's amazing. It's almost like via osmosis, the information starts to download. Like you can download a whole new program. And I think that's what people don't realize. I'm on this whole thing here recently about trying to be more positive. And I'm not perfect at it. It's, there's days. I mean, all of us have days. I mean, this idea that Tony Robbins, who's probably one of the most positive, influential speakers you'll ever see, that he wakes up every day and he's just the most happy, jovial person, and that's just natural. It's a fallacy. It's not true. You have to make that effort to be that person. If you're not willing to make that effort, then don't be surprised when, the slightest little thing that goes wrong tears you down, brings you down, causes you to just spiral out of control.
It's your brain. Wire it the way you want. If you go and buy a vehicle and you don't like the color, you have the ability to paint it. If you don't like the sound system, the spoiler, the tires, the wheels, the seats, anything about your vehicle can be yours. One of the things I've learned through therapy, if you're not in therapy, go to therapy. We all need therapy. Therapy is important. Mental health is important. Yeah. It's really important. Yeah. But you have the ability to rewire your brain. And that was not something that I really understood until I was in my 30s, until I really started to understand myself better. I now understand I'm not only ADHD, I'm also on the spectrum. I have these things that make me who I am and make me special, and I chose to grab a hold of them and love them and learn how to channel them. But you have the ability to rewire your brain. And one of the things that me and my closest friends do on our darkest days, the days that we call each other sobbing to the point you can't even understand what the other person is saying, is somehow you get through on the other end of the phone, give me 3 good things. It does not matter what's happened, how bad it is, how bad the outlook looks. It does not matter. Give me 3 good things. Give me 3 good things. You went to the gas tank and you spent $100 to fill your vehicle up. Guess what? It's because you had somewhere to go, you had a vehicle and the ability to pay for it. You went and, didn't get the job that you were going for. Guess what? You had the ability to get there. You probably had the ability to be clean enough and well clothed enough to be there. And you had enough of a background to get in front of that person. Go rewire your brain. If all you focus on is the negative, that's all you're going to see. But if you rewire your brain to find the good in everything, then you will continue to have good come to you.
Yeah, it's really hard, I think, for people to realize that you can rewire your brain. You can re-download a new operating system onto this, mainframe and think about things in a different way. I was having a conversation. I actually talked about this about maybe 2 hours ago. I was on a conference call with some buddies of mine that are kind of mentors. We kind of mentor to each other and kind of build each other up. We were talking, and I said, I noticed in my life that, my life was a series of chaotic events that were negative, and about every 6 to 8 weeks, another one of them would happen. And I said, I just can't understand why I'm measuring my life in these 8-week increments, and everything that stands out is never the positive. It's always the negative thing, because that's how, unfortunately, as humans, a lot of the times, I use the analogy of a restaurant. How many times have you gone to a restaurant and had a good experience and then said, I want to talk to the manager? It almost never happens. It almost always is the opposite. I had a bad experience. I need to talk to the manager because I want to tell him how my food was cold, or this was late, or my drink didn't get filled up, etc. And for whatever reason, most people, myself included, I'm no expert on can't deposit excuses because I'm perfect. I'm an expert, or trying to become an expert, because I had a ton of them and continue to struggle with that and struggle with trying to not let those things hold me back. But I said, the issue that people have is we measure our lives in the negative. We don't measure the positive. How many times do you, like you said, take 3 things, reflect on those 3 things, no matter how innocuous or small they may seem? Something as simple as putting, like you said, gas in the car means you live in a world in which you own a vehicle. There are plenty of people that don't have that. We just have lost perspective. We lose perspective all the time about what we have and what is good. And I was listening to a guy the other day talk about trying to get better sleep, trying to get better rest. And one of the things he recommended at the end of the day was, before you go to lay down, actually reflect on your day. Actually sit there and take the time to think about what happened in your day, what transpired. Because we forget about all the good things that happen, because I think what it is we don't have enough of an emotional response to the good. Most people have a lot more of a response to the negative things that happen. So because they're so much more emotional to them, they stand out in their minds and the positive doesn't. But if you sit there, like you said, and say, give me 3 things that were positive today? Give me those 3 things. If you do that at the end of every night, go to bed before you close your eyes, or as you're laying there trying to drift off to sleep, instead of thinking about what you have to do tomorrow, instead of thinking about like all the things that went wrong for the day, just replay your day in your mind and go through, what did I do today? I did this, I did that. And maybe if you do that, some of the positive things might start to take precedence over the negative things. But it's a process. Like there's no quick and easy way to, you talk about you can rewire your brain, you can, but you have to work at it.
You have to work at it. One of the things that happened to our family in particular with COVID is about halfway through COVID, we had some of those huge chaotic events take place to the point that I looked at my husband. My husband is my rock, my supporter, my best friend, my lover, my everything. We have finally created the most wonderful marriage. But I looked at him about halfway through COVID to this point, and I said, we're at a point in our life and our marriage and our financial situation that if we don't make the effort to do something we've never done before, we're going to have results that we had before, which for both of us was divorce. And I said, so before we get to the point where we're at each other's necks or having any of these problems, let's sit down and talk about it. And so one of the things that I learned, especially with COVID and working from home and working together in the same environment, which we had done before in a corporate setting, but not in our own home, was working with a therapist. And one of the things she taught us was how best to let your day go. And one of the things she had to do when she was beginning to work from home and doing virtual therapy was she would purposefully, walk out her back door and then, take a trip around the cul-de-sac and down the neighborhood. And then she would come in the front door just like she would if she had drove in from work, unlock the door, shut the door behind her, and she'd walk into her house about the same time as she would if she had drove home from work and left that behind. And the ability to create things in your home and your environment, whether you're working from home or you're still going to work or you're an essential worker, find a way to disconnect from what has happened to you with COVID and, politics and health. Find a way to let that go and transform it into something different that actually helps you rewire it. Do the work.
Yeah, I love
You're going to get the results.
I love the physical manifestation of leaving your house, going around the block and coming back. So you came home, and then that's kind of like cleaning the slate, because I'm not going to bring home whatever that baggage is and let it impact other parts of my life. So I think that's, there are these little tricks, these little things, and for every person it may be different, but there are things that you can do. I think that's kind of the spirit of what these last few minutes we've been talking is. There are things that you have the power to do if you're willing to do the work. You can find ways. If you don't have all the answers, that's okay. I didn't have all the answers. You didn't have all the answers, but there are people out there. Yeah, there are people out there that have answers, and you take what they say and you say, I'm going to try that and see how it can work, and see if it can make a positive impact on my life. And if I try it and it works, great. If it doesn't, then I need to go listen and take in some more and try to, learn some new techniques and figure out how I can make those work. Let me kind of circle up. We're kind of, coming up on some time. So I wanted to ask you a couple of things there towards the end. One thing, we've talked about a lot of different people that we take inspiration from, or things, you've talked about therapy. I've talked about books. You've talked about books. Is there any speaker or any book or anything in particular that you've taken a lot from recently that you feel like, this is somebody or something that I would like to share with our listeners, that they can go and say, hey, if there was a book or a person or a speaker that you could really gain some insight from that could help you in your life, this is one that I would recommend that could help. And I just wanted to ask you if you had someone like that.
Yep. For me, it's the book that my husband presented as the Bible, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. It is a book that is decades old, but it's something that I can continue to put into my life. It's something that he's given to his children when they turned 18 years old. And, it's a book that has principles that are timeless. They're universal. And if you want to put them into practice in your life, you will be successful. And if you want to manifest your dreams, go read the book.
Yeah, I think that's awesome.
There's a reason that so many successful people are inside of that book and are the ones that he went and looked at before he put those words on a page. Yeah, it works.
It's a great book. And like I said, I think a lot of people, that's a great book, a great recommendation. If you haven't read it, I'd highly recommend it. I think it's a great one. I've got it in a stack of books on my desk, along with a ton of others that I'm always going back to. Also, if you ever get a chance, go reread a book that you read years ago, because sometimes the first time you read it, it didn't speak to you. You'll go reread something and be like, oh, I get it now. I didn't get it the first time because you weren't open to it. I said earlier, you got to be open to things. Sometimes you'll read a book and just for whatever reason it doesn't speak to you, and then you'll reread it later and you'll be like, oh, I'm at the place in my life now where this speaks to me. Let me ask you this, and I know we've kind of touched on this, and I think this whole conversation it's been fantastic. But when you hear the can't deposit excuses, and that's the title of the podcast, when you hear that phrase, what does it bring to mind? What do you think about when you hear that? I always ask every guest to end the episode what their thought is when they hear that, because for me it resonated, which is why I named the podcast that. But I didn't want to know from every guest like what they take from that when they hear it.
For me, not being able to deposit excuses is really the reminder of why I get up and do what I do. I might not have the right answer every day. I might not sit down with a partner every single day, or a potential partner every day that looks across the table and sees a national platform, but buys into me. But at the end of the day, my ability to pay for my vineyard, my ability to feed my horses, our lifestyle, our dogs, the things that we do, I don't have the ability to pay for any of those with the days where I didn't show up, I didn't give it my best, and I didn't come across the table saying, hey, my name's Katie Lewis, and guess what? I've got something that's going to grow your business. Mm-hmm. And I'm excited about it because it's real. Mm-hmm. And I'm a person that speaks to my ethics. Mm-hmm. I'm not just here to BS you. And so, it's really about making sure that I'm showing up and being authentic, because at the end of the day, even if I didn't have a new partner at the end of that meeting, I know I made an impression on them that they're not going to be able to forget. And I need to go find another way to pay those bills.
Awesome. Well, let me ask you before we go, how can people reach you? How can they find you? Where would they go to learn more about, you and Real Producers and all the things that you're into? Where can our listeners and our viewers find more information about Katie Lewis?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you go to my Facebook page, Roanoke Real Producers, you'll be able to not only engage with some of the stuff that we share on social media, you'll be able to find my Katie Lewis Facebook page as well. And inside of all of my profiles, you'll have the ability to find some time on my Calendly link that will send you an email and confirmation with a Zoom link for the time that you choose to be on my calendar. And I'll be able to share with you what Real Producers is. And if it's a good fit, great. If it's not, I have one more person in the area that knows what I'm doing and what we're about.
Yeah, awesome. I think that's great. Anybody that has any reservations, book a call with Katie. She's wonderful. She is not going to pressure you into anything. All she wants to do is share her message and share what she's about. And that's all you can ask is whenever you interact with someone is to learn more about them and that they share a part of themselves. And she is an authentic person, one of a kind. And I thank you so much for being a guest and coming and doing this for a second time, despite our technical glitches. And with that being said, that wraps up another episode of the Can't Deposit Excuses podcast. Thanks, everybody.